Growing up, there was always me trying to figure out who I need to become, and really just, the biggest thing is really how to be a man, because that's something that's an issue in this country. Fatherless homes, that's a problem that most people do not talk about, because when you don't have a dad in the household, there's no masculine energy, there's no role model, there's no provider, and as a young boy, you can't see that, and you grow up into the world a little confused about how the two energies work. If I look back 7-8 years ago, conversations I was having, I would think this is the craziest talk ever. This doesn't make sense. Like,
how is it gonna make me money?
Wait, so, yeah, exactly, yeah. Like, wait, so you're telling me that within 30 minutes, I could release an emotion I had for 20 years? Yes.
I'm super duper excited for this episode because you're going to be learning from a very successful entrepreneur, fitness coach, and also best-selling author of The Longevity Game by Chiara. Get the book, it's in the description below. Go ahead and go get it. We're gonna be talking about the difference between masculine and feminine energy, and Chiara is going to explain, as he is the beast in this topic, the difference between the both. You're gonna be able to tap into them in a way that it will bring out the best out of yourself, and also being able to live out the life that you truly want. Let's get into it. Funny side note, and Michael called it on this one.
Make sure it doesn't die in the middle.
During this episode, the camera on my settings there just kind of like shut off up until the 29-minute mark. Why? I have no idea. So if you know how to fix like my camera settings, because I really don't know what is going on with settings because they cut off in the middle of the thing. Michael, you spoke too soon. Well, thank you for being here.
Of course.
Out of your busy schedule, I know you're so incredibly busy. I know you have started a retreat about, what, 2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
Tell us more about this retreat and how it's gonna correlate in today's topic.
Yeah, back in 2020, as everyone knows, the world was divided, there was no unity. And as an entrepreneur, for the last 3 to 5 years, I realized that there's a solution by getting men together and being vulnerable and really hearing what they're doing. And that's something we're gonna go so deep into, is like why some men can't feel, right? They can't express, they don't have that feminine energy, and that's something that we really went deep into on the retreat. So many men are out there, there's like, if I'm not building my business and I'm not providing, I'm like a loser, right? In reality, it's like there's another energy that you're missing that your partner actually needs out of you.
Okay, well, you say we're gonna go deep into the stuff, so like, how about we just start now and get in deep? You're the man here, so like,
absolutely,
just go ahead and be raw, be vulnerable. You had all these thoughts. I know men go through, and women too, they carry a lot of guilt.
Yeah.
Thoughts like, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not good enough if I'm not working harder. How do you like get rid of all that guilt? I know that comes from the masculine energy, because I can carry guilt too, but it's like, where does it come from? And it's from my masculine side. So can you tell more a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. There's two energies, there's masculine and there's feminine energy. And so let's go all the way back to when you were born, okay? So when you were born, every single thing that you saw, heard, experienced went into your subconscious, right? You couldn't accept or reject it, right? Because you don't have a conscious yet. Let's say when you were 2 years old, consistently throughout your childhood, you were told you're not loved and you're unworthy, and you saw violence and you saw drugs and you saw alcohol and you saw all negativity. What's gonna happen is once you start forming your conscious, when you see that, you're just gonna accept that as your reality because that's all you know, right? So when someone comes up to you and says, you're unworthy or you're not loved, automatically you're gonna go into your mind and say, I know, that is my reality, because that's what you saw. And when kids grow up in that type of environment, what ends up happening is they accept that throughout their entire lives. They go through 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s and then just die. And they just have that their entire lives, thinking that this is just life. This is what I tolerate. And what's cool is, it may have been Robert Kiyosaki said, it's one thing if you're born poor, but you better not die poor, right? And through these habits that maybe you were taught when you were a kid, there's something called switching and altering your paradigm. Paradigm is a multitude of habits. And what happens is, if you're growing up in this negative environment all the time, and you're seeing negativity, and you're seeing drugs and alcohol, and you're seeing violence, how do we switch that, right? And it's all about working on yourself and understanding, right, your energies, right? So like I said earlier, it's masculine and feminine energy, and the reason why I went into kind of the subconscious in your childhood is because this is where you get your energies from. So if you look at your masculine energy, right, the first thing that you think of is a man, right? Masculine energy is someone who provides. They like challenge, right? They're bold, right? They're people who just want to be the leader. And then feminine energy, which most people think are women, they express their emotions. They feel, they have intuition. that is the feminine energy. And what happens is, depending on how you get brought up, you have a little bit of wounded masculinity and you have a little bit of wounded feminine energy. Let's just go into a scenario. Let's say you're a young boy and you have two parents that love each other. And then one day, mom and dad don't love each other anymore. Mom and dad get a divorce. And dad was never the masculine role in that relationship. And maybe that was the reason why there was a divorce, right? Because a feminine woman and a masculine man, they come together and they create love. And let's just say that that masculine father, or that father was not masculine and he just went about his life. That young boy is gonna grow up and he's gonna have some issues, right? He's gonna lack some trust. He lacks trust in the masculine because when he was younger, he expected his dad to be that for him. So that young boy is gonna grow up and try to be the provider for his mom. He's gonna wanna be bold. He's gonna wanna be someone who loves challenge, and he's gonna have no feminine energy. You know, for me, this is something that I actually struggled with growing up, and you know, my parents were divorced and I really saw no masculine role model for myself. So growing up, I was always that person who was like, I don't need emotion, I don't need to feel, I don't need any feminine energy, I just need to provide, I just need to be a leader, I need to be free, I need to challenge myself. And that was the wrong way to go about it. And that's why I struggled so much in relationships, because a woman never felt that. If a woman knew that she needed a man to be emotionally there for her, I wasn't gonna be that. And that's something that I struggled with for so long. And when I was able to heal some of the parts of myself, and I was able to go a little bit deeper and understand that I can feel, right? And again, going through my childhood, it's really kind of taken off some of the layers that weren't your fault. Because you could probably agree there's things that happened in your childhood that weren't your fault, right? But you hold blame, you hold guilt, you hold grudges, right? And it wasn't your fault. So going back to the masculine energy, there's other wounds that you may have. You may be very closed-minded. Like, you probably know some men who are super closed-minded. Like, they will not listen to anybody on anything. They're egotistical, they're closed-minded, they're maybe very controlling as well. And those are all wounds in the masculine energy. And so we think about it as like, how do we heal those things? Number one, we have to obviously start with our environment, right? Like, what kind of environment are we in? And then number two is being able to actually go deep into your subconscious and find that time in your life where that switch happened, where you did kind of have the ego, where you did have the closed mind, where you did have, the characteristics of controlling, right? And you go very, very deep. And that's something we actually teach on the retreat, how to truly release it. It's called timeline therapy. Very, very impactful, probably 20 to 30 minutes. Really being able to have that wound, knowing that you're sitting in it, and being able to take you in and out of that event in which you created the wound. That is one of the coolest things that we do on the retreats, just because it allows the men to, number one, get vulnerable, and number two, be able to feel his emotions, right? Because I'm just speaking from my side, but when you look at the feminine energy, you look at a woman, and you could probably talk a little bit about this and maybe get your viewpoint. Let's say a woman, she grows up and maybe the same exact thing happens to her. You know, her mom and dad divorce, right? She's gonna have some wounded feminine energy, right? She may have some indecisiveness, right? When she's getting ready to maybe, find a partner, or maybe get ready to get married, she may be like, well, my mom and dad were divorced and that didn't work, so it's probably not gonna work for me, right? Maybe there's some unworthiness in there as well. Maybe there's some people pleasing. Like, think about women in your life. How many women in your life right now are people pleasers? Like, they say yes to everything, right? And the reason why they say yes is because they're so scared of getting hurt. They don't want to get hurt in that.
Or disappoint somebody.
Correct, yep.
It's all ego, yeah.
This takes place on our retreats where we're able to take someone through a timeline therapy, which is really allowing them to be in that event in which they created the wound, right? Whether it's unworthiness or whether it was indecisive, any negative emotion, guilt, shame, fear, right? You can do this with any of these negative emotions and you're able to actually release them. And going through the last 4 retreats, being able to do each one, we've seen more men get vulnerable because we're at a time right now in our lives where, people truly do need healing, because you need to be strong out here, you know. I mean, with inflation and gas prices, like, you know, people need to provide for themselves, and people are figuring out every way possible to figure out a way, like, how do I level up? How do I stop tolerating where I'm at to be able to grow? How can I get an increase at my job? Whatever it may be, people right now are starting to realize, like, we need to take control of our lives, because if not, you know, we're gonna get left behind, and times are gonna get even tougher for us, and we need to make a huge transition in our lives. So, you know, when it comes to the retreats though, it's all about healing, it's all about resetting, it's all about getting in the right environment and connecting and disconnecting from your reality. Because if you think about, one of the biggest issues in the world right now is scrolling on your phone. Right? Yeah. So let's say we're scrolling on our phones, looking at what's going on, and basically what that's saying is what's on social media is more exciting than what's in front of us, right? Like, we can go outside and be in the sun, right? We can go hang out with friends, we can go work on our mission, we can go work on our purpose, and instead people go to their phone for 6 to 7 hours a day, right? And that's another thing that people need to work on. This last retreat was really impactful. We were able to go through something, you know, one thing that we teach on the retreat is NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And what neuro-linguistic programming is it helps identify why your subconscious mind works the way it does, why you act the way you act, why you say the things that you say. And we were able to go really deep with some people and allow them to find that feeling of maybe not being worthy or not being loved, and we were able to go so deep and help them feel that and be in that moment, go back to that exact moment for the first time in their life they felt unworthy, and really be able to release those emotions. And being able to see people do that is truly incredible, because you see so many people, they go to therapy for years and years and years and nothing ever changes, right? There's no plan of action. I mean, from what we've been able to do at these retreats, we've really been able to help people get in the right mindset, really heal some of their things that they're going through, and give them an action plan to go forward.
What are some of the things that you had to heal as a man yourself?
I would say for me, guilt, right? One thing, you know, growing up, I had parents who were not really stable, you know, loving people, but not, you know, meant to be. You know, and for me, I felt very guilty, right? Of just like, I shouldn't be here, right? Because, you know, if I wasn't here, maybe my parents would have been able to work out and they would have been able to have a happy life. And for me, I held on to guilt for so long, and realizing that wasn't my fault, right? That wasn't me, right? That was just my parents in a situation where they couldn't, you know, really be the parents that they wanted to be for me. So growing up, there was always me trying to figure out who I need to become, and really just, you know, the biggest thing is really how to be a man, because that's something that's an issue in this country. Fatherless homes, that's you know, that's a problem that most people do not talk about, because when you don't have a dad in the household, there's no masculine energy, there's no role model, there's no provider. And as a young boy, you can't see that, and you grow up into the world a little confused about how the two energies work.
Have you ever heard of this book called The Superior Man?
Yes. Yep. Okay. Absolutely.
Marcel's reading it.
Nice.
Tai Lopez recommended it. You read the whole thing?
I've never read it, but I've heard it.
I recommend that book because it really strengthened me and Marcel's relationship
Love
even
it.
more.
I'm definitely gonna check it out.
Because you're gonna get to learn more about the woman. Like
Yeah.
why they feel the way they feel.
Yep.
Like when you say feelings, like that's how they connect. A lot of more stuff, and I've seen a change in him too.
I love it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I recommend Jen, if you're watching, I recommend Jen's his girlfriend, by the way, beautiful lady. I recommend you getting the book, The Praying Wife.
All right.
Why? Because
so she's gonna read that, or are we both gonna read it together?
well, there's a book for the men too.
Okay, gotcha.
It's more for the woman to go through this process by not necessarily by herself, but with God. And when women pray for their husbands, they just change.
That's awesome.
So I mean, I don't know. Maybe you guys could read it together.
Yeah, I'm gonna see her later, and we're gonna talk about it.
I have the book, so you can take a look at it.
Cool.
Before.
Awesome.
I do recommend that heavily.
We'll do a book review.
It's interesting because I didn't know what men become so controlling in a way. That's not a bad thing.
Right.
Just wanting to provide and because there wasn't a masculine energy like the father being around, they have the sense to provide for their mom.
As a boy, right, like you don't want to see your mom struggle, right? So that's just natural. It's a natural instinct of, I'm gonna go help my mom because she needs it. But what we don't realize is growing up into our teens and into our 20s, right, that actually hurts us long term, because when we go through life, right, as a 22, 23, 24-year-old, you're going to go into relationships thinking, I'm going to provide for this woman, right? But you've been providing for your mom, right? When you meet a woman, you know, who you're going to date, the dynamic is so much different, and she's going to feel that wounded energy. And what happens is, when you're helping your mom through situations like that, you know, your mom is so vulnerable, and your mom knows she needs help, so she's gonna be a yes woman. You know, she's gonna have her own wounded feminine energy. So when you go out into the real world and you find a woman to go date, right, you're gonna have some controlling energy, because whatever you says goes, because that you were the man of the house. And what happens is, a woman will either say, like, this guy is very controlling, I cannot deal with this, or, and that's a healed feminine energy woman, right? Or she will allow that to happen. And if she's allowing a man to just control her life, then she is deeply she deeply has a wound that she needs to heal as well.
So how can that man get rid of that ego?
We do go through an exercise. I can kind of go into it a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah, of course.
Some freebies out.
So what happens is we're able to take them into it's almost like a meditation in a way, but we're able to take them out of where they're at right now. So like if you were deciding to close your eyes right now, right, and I just asked you to float up a little bit, just float up a little bit higher than where you're at right now, right? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask you, what kind of emotions are you feeling? So now what this does is this gets a man to feel some of his emotions, because most men, they don't feel, they're deeply in their masculine. So I have them float up, right? Ask them what they're feeling, right? They're probably feeling the same exact thing of what they were before they floated, right? And now what I'll do is I'll be able to create a scenario where they can look down on an event where the ego started coming out, whether it was when they were younger, maybe they were older.
The very first
memory. And again, it doesn't even have to be an egotistical thing. It could have been something to where it started, maybe it, like the ego thing maybe started with some guilt or maybe some shame or fear, right? That event. So let's just say, let's just say you lost your baseball game when you were younger, right? And you basically went into your room and you just threw a bunch of everywhere. You just you freaked out, like you took your blankets, you ripped them off, you started throwing your trophies everywhere, and like that could be that first event for you where you felt so frustrated and your anxiety was through the roof, and that was the first time you felt that, and your mind goes, what is this? I've never seen this before. I don't even know who this is right now. And then what ends up happening is you wake up the next morning, and now you have in your subconscious mind that there's this thing called anxiety. And then there's other events that just naturally happen. Maybe you go to your next game and you win, and you're like, okay, I experienced failure, I experienced winning, like what else is there? But then maybe you're in school as you're younger, and maybe you start having a girlfriend and she breaks up with you, right? Now there's all these events happening, right? And this happens to every kid, right? All these events are happening, break up and losing and experience failure and experience winning. Maybe what happens after that is you win consistently and consistently and consistently, and you never learn truly how to deal with failure, right? And when you don't deal with failure, you just think you're gonna win all the time. And we all know in life, you do not win all the time. You fail a lot more than you win, but that's actually what gets you to winning. If you look at Michael Jordan's stats for basketball, he missed more shots than he took, right? But he ended up being one of the best. And that's how life is, and we need to understand that it's okay to make mistakes. In your feminine energy, you feel that, like it is okay to make mistakes. If you were late to work, or if you spilt your coffee, or you did something, you miscommunicated with someone, you could sit here and say, it is truly okay. You do not have to hold that against you. Because again, like for me, I'm very disciplined when it comes to being on time and all these different things. And like, if I am 10, 15 minutes late for some reason, like, am I hard on myself for a second? Yes. But then do I understand that I am human? Yes. So going back to the exercise, we're able to help them feel that emotion, right? Whatever that emotion or whatever that event may have been. And we're able to take him back into that event like he's actually there, and for him to actually experience it. And we go through how he's feeling. What was the purpose of this event? Why were you there? Right? What's the intention behind it? Do you feel different? Like all these different things. And when you're able to float them back up into kind of, reality and kind of in and out of the event, they start to actually feel a lot better, but more importantly, they actually feel like it wasn't their fault. Because as kids, for the most part, right, things weren't your fault, right? And if you look at like a failure, maybe winning too much, that's just based on performance, but that doesn't identify you as a person, right? If I play you in let's say tennis and you beat me, right? Should I just naturally put myself in like doubt and like the life's over and everything? No, we just move on, right? The goal is next time to learn from my mistakes of what I did wrong and then play you again and beat you. And we would all think that's like what we're supposed to do. And for the most part, people they sit in that, right? And they just allow themselves, again, think about things that have been sitting in your heart for 20 to 25 years, or people who are 60 and they've been sitting for 40 to 50 years and they've never healed those things. They've never truly been able to let go. I think that is why it's so powerful what we do, is because we're able to take someone from point A to point B within 30 minutes, and in reality they've been sitting with it for 20 plus years. So
and that's how they unfortunately grow bitter and resentful.
Yeah, and think about it when you have kids, right? You're
health issues.
Yeah, exactly. You're bringing, if you have kids, right, you're bringing that energy into them. And it's like we always say, like, be whole and grow into the person you need to become. And we always talk about, I'm a trainer, so like working out, very important, right? We talk about like being good with your finances, right? Being good with your spouse, being good with your other relationships, your family. But what happened to like going deep into your heart and being able to get rid of the things that have been there for 20 years? Like if there's something there for 20 years, we need to do everything in our power to release that, because you don't want to bring that into your kid's life or even your grandkids' life, right? That's why if you look at, let's just say, your family tree, everyone's done the same exact thing, right? Maybe they worked until they were 70, retired, worked until they were 70, retired, worked until they're 70, and no one remembers any of them, right? I don't remember like my great-great-grandpa. Like, I don't think any of us really know who those people are. But if you were to look back and say like, yeah, George Washington was part of my family, you'd probably know that, right? Or somebody like Babe Ruth, right? Some of these like iconic, right, figures, people who made a real impact, you'll remember those people, right? And I bet you those people did some healing in their lives to become who they're supposed to be.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What would you say to the person that is, let's say, struggling in a very, well, I wouldn't say very, but like just controlling relationship because of the circumstances in the past and all this kind of stuff, and the ego as they were kids? How would you talk to their feminine side? I mean, I guess for women, like for me, like I could say this about myself, like, is there hope in the relationship?
If they want it,
Want what?
if they want to actually change. Because one of the biggest, we call it just being stuck. Most people just think, well, this is who I am, right? I'm controlling and sorry, this is just who I am. But in reality, were you born that way? No, right? But were you programmed that way? Yes. Very, very big difference. If I was born with 4 fingers instead of 5, I could tell you I was born with 4 fingers, not programmed with 4 fingers. But when it comes to controlling tendencies or being closed off or being egotistical or lacking trust, that's all programmed in through childhood. So for someone who is very controlling, right, those people have the biggest egos. I mean, oh my, man, if you guys are controlling and you, like, I'm telling you, that right there is the biggest sign of ego, and 100% healing needs to be taken. That's not exactly who you're supposed to be, right? Again, in the masculine role, you want to be the dominant provider. You want to be that guy. But when it's like you're controlling everything and it's your way or the highway, that's not how you're supposed to live your life, right? If your wife wants to go for a walk once a week, and you're like, no, like, I'm not doing that. Like, I run this show. It's like, you need some serious help. So again, it's like, where does that control emotion, where does that come from? And how long have you been aware of it? And more importantly, how long have you sat with it? Because again, a controlling man usually sits with that for a long period of time, whether it's from 3 years old, 5 years old, 6 years old. And when are you willing to be completely okay with releasing that? And again, like, I think it just borderline based around specific conversations of, hey, like, are you open to this? Yes. If you are, then we can move forward into, you should 100% attend one of our retreats. because what we're gonna do is we're gonna help you understand how your mind works, but more importantly, we're gonna help you find exactly what you're struggling with, or find the event that made you struggle and be able to release that emotion from you, which again, is extremely powerful, and a lot of people never experience this because they don't really know about it. And it's truly incredible seeing, you know, these men get vulnerable, seeing these men being able to connect with other men as well. And it doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur, if you work a 9 to 5, doesn't matter the color of your skin, doesn't matter your age. We welcome every single man because we realize that all men have healing to do. All men have things that they need to work on. And it's just been so cool to see the transformations over the last 2 years.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. What an incredible episode. I so appreciate you watching this whole entire thing. It shows to me that you are so dedicated and disciplined and serious about really improving your life and improving your character and just your wealth. All that there is for you to be successful in life, whatever that success is for you. I appreciate your valuable time for watching this whole thing. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. And also, before I do forget, watch this video next here, because in this video, I'm gonna talk about why choosing the right partner is absolutely crucial to your success. Hit that notification so that way you are reminded for next weekly video. You are amazing. I'll see you in the next video. I love you.